So, at this time when the energies are so high and there is so much transmission coming from Gaia, coming from the sun, coming from our other divine aspects, it's so important to pay attention to the body. And I've been living this myself personally for months, it seems, where my own body is handling these energies in ways that I did not expect. And it's forcing me to really pay attention to what it's asking for in any given moment. And what I'm talking about specifically, the greatest example I have is with water. So when the energies are high, and that could be from something like the Schumann frequencies, where you can see a graph that will illustrate what the frequencies are like on any given day. If those are high, that can be something that's affecting our body. When I notice it most is actually when I am going into meditation or even going into a conscious discussion where I'm trying to convey some kind of message that, even if it taps in slightly into higher consciousness, like right now, where we're going to talk about some bigger topics, there's an aspect of myself that comes into my body. And I believe this happens with all of us at different points. But when that essence steps into my physical body, the frequency is higher than what my regular baseline frequency may be. So essentially, my body is acting like a conduit. And again, I'm not speaking that this is just happening to me, but I'll use my own story of what's happening with my body. And hopefully you can relate to this, or you can put some context to it in your own life as this happens or when this happens to you. But when that essence comes into me, and this could even be just when I go into meditation and connect with my own higher self or soul, it doesn't seem to matter, except that different essences are bringing a different frequency. And so the different frequencies are at different ranges. And what I've noticed is that certain aspects of myself, for example, like my twin soul, that's one that happens to have a much higher frequency. And what happens is I end up being completely and almost instantaneously dehydrated. And it's fascinating to me how quickly it happens. It can be over a matter of maybe 30 seconds to a minute. It can span over maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But I can go from being completely hydrated to suddenly having a dry or drying mouth and then needing to drink water. And you know that feeling when, you're starting to get dehydrated and then you get dehydrated and then it's almost like this feeling of desperation, like I need water. It can start to be like that if I don't have something on hand. And the first couple times it happened, I didn't really know what was happening. I was like, why am I so thirsty? And then I would notice that my skin would be flushed. I would feel like this beautiful kind of energetic glow as well as the whole experience was taking place. And then I remembered back to when I first started having these experiences, minus the thirst. There was always the same kind of afterglow that I would feel in my body. And that's what was still happening. It's just now there was just like an intensity or a ramping up of the energies. And now this thirst is happening. So for me, what I'm learning from this is that, the body is using the one element that is so much of what it's already made up of, right? Because the body is 70-80% water to begin with. And then if we're using, or if energy is starting to flow through that physicality, that mechanism, and bringing with it more information, more codes, what is one of the things that we do with water? Well, water is programmable, right? It is, in a sense, like a giant floating memory stick. And so the body asks for more of itself, in a sense. And that made me think about, wow, so we are so programmable at a cellular level, like at a microscopic level. We are primarily water. And that's when Dr. Masaru Emoto, his studies and the photographs that he took of water being programmed by thought and emotion, it's literally happening at this grander scale with the high frequencies and the light codes and information that's coming in from our galactic sun, from our central sun, and also from Gaia during this period of, quickening, of this rapid awakening process that's taking place. And of course, it's happening at a consciousness level, but it's also happening at a biological level. As our codes are upgrading, as our frequency is rising, our biology is shifting and changing. And it's like running the engine of a car at higher revs. It needs more fluid, it needs more lubrication, and it really feels like there's this uptake in performance, even because there's more that takes place in these condensed periods. I can feel coming through, and I really am growing in appreciation for how the body is just asking for what it needs and makes it really clear when I'm not giving it to it. So during some of these, let's say, energetic blasts where I'm definitely needing more water, if I listen and I drink, it's interesting because I won't actually expel it out. There will be very little that actually comes out afterwards. It's just being maintained and used by the body. And if I miss it and don't heed the body's request for more water, it will end up expressing in a different way, coming out as something like a headache or extreme fatigue or something like that. But as long as I'm able to answer its request, in this case for water, the body is able to do everything else it needs to do. And it seems to flush out what needs to flush out, harness or manage energy streams that are coming in. And it's just another reminder that if I'm present to what the body's asking for, sometimes it's more than water. Sometimes it's, craving for something that is alive in a nutritional sense, specifically something like a citrus. And if I listen to those signals, listen to those requests, and give it some citrus or give it some coconut water. That's another thing that comes in as really strong and really nourishing. And in those moments when the hydration is, really, really strong, dehydration starting to really creep in, those two things can be lifesavers. So it's just a reminder for me, and I wanted to share with y'all because it's all of our bodies. It's all of our bodies at different levels are expressing what they need from us. And what I know for myself to be true from my own path is that learning to listen and learning to hear what the body's actually asking for was something that I had to practice. And so if you haven't already been practicing to listen to what the body is asking you for, maybe this is a good time to do so, because Lord knows there is not going to be a shortage of energy anytime soon in terms of what we're being bombarded with as we simply exist on the planet. And there's no better time than now because of that to start listening and start giving the body what it's actually asking for. So maybe on a parting note, I'll say, next time you feel drawn to put anything, for example, into your mouth, or even to put your body into anything, whether it's to put it into clothing or put it outdoors, or maybe even putting it into water, ask your body and simply stay still with it and quiet and see what it's actually asking for. I know when it comes to food, sometimes we'll have part of us that is requesting something, and it's often the mind, something comforting, something sweet, something starchy. When if we sit still for a moment and look using our eyes at a few different options, or if we don't see it, imagining a few different options as to what we could have, and we're quiet and still, we'll notice subtle answers from the body. Whether it's something that makes you salivate or something that suddenly fills you with peace or with ease, pay attention to what you're feeling as you sit and ask the body what it wants. And you'll be surprised how sometimes what you thought you wanted may actually be very different than what you actually do want and what the body's asking you for through subtle cues.